Liz, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited for this conversation because you are empowering so many women and you have become a real estate powerhouse yourself. And, you've co-authored books and you have a very strong real estate portfolio yourself. And you are a podcast host and you're doing so many great things to empower women. And we're so aligned in what we're trying to do to lift other women, female entrepreneurs up, especially mom entrepreneurs. You're a mom yourself. And
Yep.
so, welcome to the podcast. I can't wait to dive into this conversation.
Me too. I appreciate being here, Angela, and just supporting your listeners and the women that are here any way I can.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm always so humbled by the large community of female entrepreneurs that are out there and I have the opportunity to bring together and the incredible things that are happening that I get to shed light on. So before we dive into some more of the details, why don't you share how you got into real estate investing and became an entrepreneur? Where did that start?
Yeah. So 35 years later, no, not that long, but I feel sometimes, as a Generation X, I feel like I am starting to get on the pendulum of the age bracket. But no, I was in grad school. Long story short, I was in grad school getting my degree in social work, actually. I always had this I love Mother Teresa. She's someone I looked up to, wanted to serve by being a therapist. I was a psych major undergrad. And then I was getting my degree, I was getting my master's at Penn right after college, very focused, didn't even work, just said, this is what I want to do. And I get laser focused on something, I lean in. And my brother-in-law handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a book that's been around forever. Robert Kiyosaki is the author of that book. And I was forever kind of like, hold on, there's a whole other world out there than working really hard at a job. And I knew of starting businesses, but I couldn't tell you three things about it per se. And that book really opened my eyes to real estate, to working, creating value, building passive income, all the things that we have now learned over the last 20 years of what investment can do for you. And so that kind of opened my eyes. I decided to get a sales position after that. I actually didn't become a therapist. I think I still am in my heart, and it's something actually I love doing, but I don't get per se paid to be a therapist. But anyway, I then I worked in corporate to learn how to sell, because that's one of the suggestions. If you want to be an effective entrepreneur, if you want to be an effective investor, you need to learn how to really enroll people and connect with them and sell to them. So that's the job I ended up taking for about a decade. At the same time, met my husband and we bought our first property before we were married. We got a duplex, small little duplex in outside of Philadelphia, 2004. I'm dating myself. That was 20 years ago. That was our first investment. And then we've grown that to a couple thousand units and 400 investors. And really, we syndicate larger commercial properties to, and we add value and all that good stuff on the East Coast. So that's a little bit about how we got started. But, it was really we wanted to live a bigger life, Angela. And we saw that as one way to do that. I mean, I felt very comfortable. We both came from middle-class families, but we really wanted to make an impact. And we saw that as a way to do that.
Hmm. I love that. And I mean, I used to live outside of Philadelphia in South Jersey, so I know that area well. And, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
So tell us about DeRosa Group
Yeah.
and what you're doing with that and how you're changing lives with that group.
Yeah. DeRosa is the company that my husband and I started, and we really built together. We always wanted to make a difference in the community. So
Hmm.
we got our start obviously outside of Philadelphia, but then we really leaned into Trenton, New Jersey was really where we bought all of our initial properties. One, we can afford it. We didn't do a ton of market analysis at that juncture. And the things I know now, right? You don't know when you start, you just kind of want to get going. But we really wanted to make a difference as well. And Trenton, for those who aren't familiar, is the capital of the great state of New Jersey, and a city that's still in development, if you will. It's one of those communities that was booming in the 50s. Suburban sprawl happened, and they haven't figured it out how to bring people back, to be honest with you, in terms of thriving businesses and a thriving community in terms of home ownership and this and that, right? So many of the cities that have struggled, that them being one of them. So about 15 years ago, we just had this wanting and wanting to be part of the solution, and wanted to take dilapidated, beat up properties, renovate them, and kind of one by one make a difference with property, and also put tenants in them and create quality housing. That was the vision. That was the goal. We had over at one point 100 properties in Trenton that we did that with. Even on one block, we renovated four buildings, and so even from a block perspective, we didn't do that every block, but that was a cool block right on one of the main drags. We bought a commercial building, created a small business center. We took a dilapidated property and put 3 loft style apartments and then commercial space, and we did that again. So we're proud of the work we did there. I learned early on, and this is just a real estate tip, that you can't control a market, right? You can only participate in it. And I think those are very wise words. And I embody those when I'm now looking for properties. You cannot change the market unless you just have so much money and so much influence to spread. We made a difference. I wish we knew that a little bit better earlier on, because we did come up against different challenges that we had in the city. Leadership, all those different things happen, right? And people want more rentals. They don't want regulations is everything in communities. So if you're looking at a market, you can't control it. You can participate. You want to go to markets and invest in markets that, quite honestly, are welcoming whatever investment you're looking at doing, whether it's short-term rentals, or whether it's a commercial building, or whether it's just renovating a single-family home. Not every market's created equal. So you got to get to know the market you're in to see if is it welcoming of what I want to do.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. Yeah, we had a hard time selling our property in New Jersey too. So I know a little bit about that myself.
Yeah.
But so you scaled your portfolio to over $100 million. And I would love to hear, I'm sure you could write books about this. Some of the lessons that you've learned, especially as a female investor from a middle class background, because I think one of the biggest problems in wanting to grow wealth, there are things like the mindset shifts that you have to make sometimes.
Yep.
Like, do you deserve to be wealthy? How hard do you have to work for it? Can you keep it? Can you be wealthy and still be a good person?
Yeah, there's a
Those are
lot there.
all things that I think people who come from, especially a lower middle class background, really struggle with. So what are some of the lessons you've learned as you've scaled your investments?
I think I can go into so many different specifics about that, meaning when to bring people on your team and that kind of thing, because now you're spending money. It all stems back to, I think, your relationship to money. And early on, my husband and I did a lot of work on ourselves. I mean, I listen, I'm continually doing work on myself. I am a work in progress. I don't think I'll ever stop working on myself till I die. I have plenty to work on. So, but early on, we did at the same time as we were scaling up, and quite honestly, my friends and family, like, we were unique, right? Most of my friends were not like living below their means. Want their partner or one of them, working full time in their business, buying property, figuring out how to buy property in Trenton, New Jersey. We had a unique story. I couldn't relate, honestly, to a lot of people and a lot of my friends. And so we had to do the work on ourselves to shift our mindset and shift our way of being, because you can only grow so much on the outside that aligns with the growth in the inside, right? That's what it all comes down to. So one of the things we did was we went to we did landmark education. It's called the Landmark Forum. Very, very, very intense weekend to look at yourself. That opened up a lot with him and I in terms of our own mindset and possibility, and even just working together. We struggled a lot early on. We were newly married. We were building this business, not making all the right calls. We had money tied up from family members. I mean, we had a lot going on that would cause normal people to go, overwhelmed. So we then did a weekend on it's called T. Harv Eker wrote a book called The Millionaire Mind, and he has a weekend. I don't know if he's still doing it. This was some time ago. I think there are still weekends, but it's all about your relationship to money,
Mm-hmm.
specifically. And that was so eye-opening for me and my husband.
Mm-hmm.
We learned so much about ourselves, like where I'm
Mm-hmm.
more of a saver, he's more of a spender. What's behind that? Because I grew up in a family where um, we saved, we didn't spend. I didn't see my family and my parents spending. Now, at one moment, they didn't have the extra money to spend, right? In their defense, but I didn't see it. I saw more of like a hardworking. We hold on to it, and that served me so well. Where
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't serve you is like, what's the cost versus the value? And if
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be an effective investor and an effective entrepreneur, there's a moment that you have to spend money on
Mm-hmm.
something or something, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to go, okay, is the value that I'm going to get going to be higher than the cost of it? And
Mm-hmm.
that was definitely not in most of my up to my 30s way of thinking. I only looked at cost. And if it was expensive, everything was expensive. That's $10. That's expensive. I thought everything was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not expensive. It depends on what value you're getting. So that was a big mindset shift for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I it's not what I got growing up, but I built upon what I got growing up because I was grateful of my frugality, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we would have been living below our means as much as we were working off one salary when we were getting going if it wasn't for me, right? In my pat myself on the back. I don't think we would have spent and made as big moves as we would have if it wasn't for my husband because he's more of a
Mm-hmm.
spender. So we've been able to blend. But that weekend was very eye-opening from a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say to people, if you want to invest,
Mm-hmm.
getting really clear on your relationship to money
Mm-hmm.
is like, it's 101. You got to
Mm-hmm.
do it. It's going to come up again. It's going to come to you, facing
Mm-hmm.
you. It's just a matter of time if you're going to actively invest and grow wealth. Just is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, I think one of the most important things that you said was reflecting back to you is that you had the courage to continue to be an outlier, to do the internal work, because so many people don't do that internal work and are just kind of living on default mode, and not examining those beliefs and not looking at what's behind whether they're a saver or a spender and those sorts of things.
And just an
So,
example, if you don't mind, I'll give you a quick example of a woman
yeah,
in our
please.
community. So I run the InvestHER Community. I know we'll talk about that. And there was a woman that came on, and we do a mastermind, right? So women
Mhm.
are coming on, group work. Woman comes on talking about something she was working through. And we don't just talk about real estate investing. It's a group of women who are building their portfolios that can come on and talk about their stuff. Not many women you could do that with. And she got an appraisal back from one of her investment properties. So she
Mhm.
was flipping property. And she said, and we asked her some questions, and she goes, you know what? I'm equating my worth to the appraisal, meaning this property came back low, right? Low appraisal, which in investing, not a good thing, right? You want your appraisal to be higher so you can refinance, pull the money out, all the things that we come to understand in this process of investing. And she was like in tears. She's
Yep.
like, I realized about myself that I'm equating my worth to this appraisal, and I'm not that appraisal. I'm worth a lot more. And that is something that comes up a lot with women in our community because
Mhm.
we often will do that. So there's an element of mindset, and then there's an element of like mindset when it comes to women, especially. I'm not an expert in all women, right? I don't
Yep.
even pretend to be, but
Yep.
I'm just sharing the things that come up. And when it comes to property and money, we'll
Mhm.
often attach ourselves to those things. And I've lost money. We've made big mistakes, and you got to get through. Like, that's not me, right? That's a
Mhm.
mistake, right? And
Yeah.
so anyway, I just wanted to share that color because
Yeah.
I think a lot of the women listening could probably, even just on a personal level, connect with that and say, okay, how do I detach
Right.
from that decision or that loss, whether it
Right.
was a loss of $10 or it was a loss of
Right.
$100,000, because we've all had losses and tough things that have happened when it comes to money.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that that's so important. And I think that not only applies to women, but even more so moms, because
Yeah,
like the stakes are even higher and we
absolutely.
put even more pressure on ourselves to be perfect or to do the
Yeah.
right thing. And you might feel as an investor even worse about yourself if you have a family that's depending on you and you make an investment or make a decision that doesn't go the way you hoped it would.
Right.
And so, honestly, that's so connected with the work I do as a confidence coach. Do not look at the external things in our world for your sense of worth and your sense of, so that just, it just goes to so much that we do, and we have to unlearn if we want to grow, whether it's in real estate
Yeah.
whatever we want to do. I have listeners who are also trying to raise capital and
Hmm.
trying to do that with confidence. And what are some of the pieces of advice you might have for someone? I mean, it sounds like you'd probably link it to not connecting that to your self-worth. What are some of the advice for those looking to do that?
We have a lot of experience. When we got started, our first property, we didn't have any money to invest, right? So, it's evolved over the years, right? As we've had some wins, and now we're passively investing in other projects and active investors. So, it's been full circle. But when we began, and we were definitely for the beginning, we got loans from friends and family, things of that sort, and then it transitioned to what if we were able to work with people that I know that know, like, and trust, respect us
Mhm,
to invest in bigger deals and bigger projects, right?
mhm,
So we were able, over the years, we have over 400 investors and millions of dollars that we've raised to, one, be partners with us, like an equity partner, like a limited partner in some of our deals. It's called a syndication, syndications of multifamily or new construction, right? Or we've had private lenders where someone on a private side said, you know what, get some money in an IRA or self-directed. I want to loan it to you, Angela, for an agreed upon interest rate. And it's secured by the collateral, which in our world is real estate, right? So it's a lending opportunity or an equity. So we've raised a lot and have had a lot of private money partners over the years. I think there's a lot of noise out there from people who are on social media, quote unquote, raising money, especially in our world of real estate right now, of investments. There's people who are very seasoned having to give keys back to the bank because they're over leveraged. They didn't run their deals properly. So the first point is, are you raising money on the right project and in the right deal, right? So that's pretty obvious, but I do need to say that, especially right
mhm.
now,
Yep.
because if people are not being conservative with how they're, like, underwriting, whether it's you're raising for your business or you're
Mhm,
raising for property,
mhm,
that matters right now. It matters big time, especially I'm just speaking from like a multifamily perspective, because that's the world that I come from.
mhm,
I think in raising money, the biggest mindset block that comes up for people, and I know it came up for us, is that you're not asking for money, right? This is not a donation. Unless you
mhm,
you you want to be a nonprofit and ask for donations. I have nothing against that. I have so many nonprofits I support. So I'm not saying this to poo-poo that, but it's
mhm,
not what you're doing, right? We're not setting up a nonprofit and asking for donations. You're presenting an investment opportunity.
mhm,
And I think that mindset shift, when we said, okay, we don't have our hand out.
mhm,
We have, like, this is a partnership.
mhm,
Because if you're really not believing that you're going to create value for the person who is lending you the money, or you're partnering with on some sort of, like, they're becoming actually an equity partner, then you don't have the right project,
mhm, mhm.
right? I mean, let's be honest. And
Right.
so my thought is that it's not a handout. You're creating a win-win opportunity. So
Mhm,
there's a level of confidence that comes with that, meaning, this is the project, these are the numbers, this is what the business plan, this is what we're going to be doing.
mhm.
Like, are you on board or not? Versus, hey, so we could really use your $50,000. I mean, it's a whole different way of being, right?
Yep.
And I think that confidence matters. And I
Mhm,
don't mean blind confidence, because
mhm,
there are people right now that are enrolling people and raising money, and they're not the best operators, right? So I know that that's happening.
mhm. Sure.
But I mean, for people who have the right projects, that have
Mhm,
it have high integrity,
mhm,
that have a track record, they've
mhm,
done this multiple times before. Um, when you haven't, you got to build that somehow, whether it's your
mhm.
team or, that matters, right? Knowing, okay, have you done this? Do you have a proven track record?
Right.
So, give you some thoughts there.
Yeah, and just being able to trust yourself, you know, and that you can execute the project. And I'm sure that that can be an element as well. It's you've got to have that confidence in yourself that you can.
Absolutely. And I always say to people, especially for those in our group, in our community, is like, you don't need to have all the answers,
Right.
but you need to know who to go to.
Yeah.
So, and I think for women, right, we're so good at being solopreneurs. We're
Mhm.
so good at being rugged individualists. We can run the household, run the kids' activities, run the business, run the aging parents,
Mhm.
be on a board in the evening, and then hang out with our friends. Like what women do is just mind-blogging. I mind blog until I became a mom. I never appreciated, I think, women as much, really, honestly.
Mhm.
To birth a child, I mean, we can get into it, how amazing women are, but I'm biased, of course. I run the investor community. Of course, I'm a little biased.
You got
I
the
love all
t-shirt.
that out there, of course. But there, it's just amazing. But what that's done, I
Mhm.
think, especially for our generation in particular, is built this like habit of being a solopreneur.
Mhm.
That can get it. If you want to grow wealth and you want to build a business, that will become your Achilles heel.
Mhm.
That will get in your way because you
Mhm.
can't do it alone. You just can't. I hate to say it. Even Wonder Woman couldn't, and I literally have Wonder Woman right here. I love her, but she
She's one
couldn't
of
do
my
it all
heroes
alone.
too.
I know, I'm such a dork, but I think that makes a difference. And so, how can you ask for help?
Mhm.
And raising money to just full circle is building something bigger than yourself. You're
Mhm.
building a business though, and you have the fiduciary right to protect the people that are involved with you,
Mhm.
and get them into projects that you have a big confidence that's going to work.
Right. Yeah. What I think is so important too, sometimes we don't often have the vision to start investing and building wealth for ourselves, but sometimes we can incorporate this idea of what we want to leave our families and future generations and building a legacy. So
Yeah,
I'd really like to talk about that because I think having a vision greater than yourself can help you do things like get out of the solo entrepreneur trap and things like that. So, can we talk about, building a legacy and how important that is and any advice you have for
yeah.
listeners who might be thinking about that?
I think legacy is such an interesting topic, right? We could probably talk about it for a couple hours. In that, um, legacy can be a person. It could be a teaching. It could be something you teach your children, right? It
Mhm.
could be an actual physical asset, right? It could be an organization, a company. Legacy could be so many different things, right? It's
Mhm.
about the impact you're making on the world,
Mhm.
right? And everyone has a different level of legacy. But for me, I had my son at 2013. I had my first kid. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I had him and I left my corporate work. So all the consulting I was doing, I left. And I, retired from that, if you will. We started to build up our own investments that, I can take a step back and get more involved in the company, right? Me and my husband's business. And as I was doing that, because I was always involved, but I was like full time with him building this business, had a newborn. I felt completely empty, to be honest. I was like, I should be so happy right now. I have a healthy little baby. We finally have our business to the point it's able to pay us so I can leave my corporate work and build this business that I've been dreaming about building with my husband. Like I should be on paper really happy and really joyful. And honestly, I wasn't. I was very felt very just drained. I felt very empty, felt very not sure of myself. And around the same time, I met my now business partner, Andressa. And we started partnering on deals, connecting. And what I found was that I was missing my purpose. Because what I do believe about legacy, just to connect the dots, is that your purpose is connected to your legacy. And everyone's
Mhm.
purpose is different, right?
Mhm.
There's no right or wrong purpose. But
Mhm.
getting clear on what that purpose is, like what really lights you up,
Mhm.
will lead towards the legacy part. I don't see
Mhm.
how the two can't be together.
Mhm.
So for me, in talking with her, we start partnering on deals, we start flipping properties, we go to all these events, and we're like, where are all the women in this business? Where are the women investing? and we didn't know where they hung out. So we created a community 6 years ago. And it's based on real estate investing, of course, but self-care and running a business the way you should, and community and like camaraderie and authenticity.
Mhm.
And I finally felt like I was bringing my purpose
Mhm.
together with just like purely investing.
Mhm.
I like real estate. I mean, I really do. I see there's so many um, tax advantages. We can go on and all the things that are the benefit of that particular asset class. But does that give me purpose?
Mhm.
No. What gives
Mhm.
me purpose is really bringing women together and seeing women like, build their own wealth and leave their own legacies. Like that really lights me up, like more than my own portfolio.
Mhm.
So for me, that journey of like, what do I need to be doing to bring me that purpose? And then how can I give to others? That process then really led me to say, okay, what is my, what do I want my legacy to be? I hope
Mhm.
InvestHER lives beyond myself.
Mhm.
If it doesn't, I know the women that I impacted, their legacy will continue. So either or, right?
Mhm.
Blows up today or continues to go, which we're just getting started.
Mhm.
I feel like there's a legacy piece. So to
Mhm.
answer your question, I just think women need to stop and go, where do I feel purposeful?
Mhm.
Where do I feel a passion? What lights me up?
Mhm.
And how do I really segue that into leaving a legacy? And what does that
Mhm.
look like for me? What does it look like for me on my own terms, not what it should look like?
Mhm. Yeah, I love that you brought that story up in that I think so many women get stuck in beating themselves up because they don't find just being a mother fulfilling. And,
Absolutely.
and then, like you said, if you have the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom, then you beat yourself up doubly because you know women who would just killed for that opportunity. And then so I found myself in that same situation as a military spouse. And like,
Yeah.
I think we have a new generation of highly educated, talented women who haven't had anybody show them how they can share their talents and also be a mom the way that they want to and live their purpose and also, you know, be much more than a mom if they would like to. So,
And you're right. It's there's so many, I don't want to get political at all because that's just not fun for people like, political. No, but whatever your beliefs are, but I've been hearing it. I don't know why it's even connected to politics, but I do believe women have the right to choose what they should do with their time, whether they want to be a mom or not. And there's no reason a woman should ever give to say, I'm a stay-at-home mom and these are the reasons I need to defend me staying home. Like that gets me, and I'm an entrepreneur, right? I have multiple
mhm,
businesses, but I think I get so frustrated when I hear women, whatever they've chosen to do, they now have to defend their choice to somebody else.
right.
That gets me really frustrated, but another story for another day. my
Yeah,
my
but
point for the women listening so much is like, what's really important to you? And
mhm,
if it really is important, like, should I want to do more than just staying in? If you're raising children, like that's an enormous job in and of itself. Let's just be very clear
right,
on that. So
right.
there's no like, well, you should feel like you should want to do some more stuff too.
Yeah,
Only if you want to. If you
no.
have this, I do. I had it. I was like, I want to create a business and I want to raise children. And
Mhm,
that's been, now it hasn't been all perfect, right? And there's moments that my kids come first. And
mhm,
there's things that my kids are going through right now that they need my attention. After this podcast, I need to make a couple of personal calls so I can support my son and some of the things he's dealing with. He's
mhm,
first priority. So my
right.
business now will be secondary. But my point in saying all that
Right.
is I think it matters that women really need to hear, or young women need to hear, like you do you, and whatever that looks like, you need to do you. And I'm tired, especially of men telling women how they should be. It's just really nauseating. So that's just, sorry about that. I had to just tell you
Yeah,
that.
no, I mean, I was nauseated by having to defend my motherhood to the corporate world I was working in. You
Absolutely.
know, it was a world that wasn't created for mothers in the first place. And here
Not at
you
all.
are.
Not at all.
And so that's why I think, motherhood and entrepreneurship are such a beautiful marriage because
Yes.
if you should choose it, because it allows you to share your talents and be a mother in the way that you would like to
Correct.
at the same time, should you
Yeah.
choose it.
Should you choose it? Should you choose it? And I think that's the key. And I recorded something about this over the weekend, but I think women, we busy ourselves. And
Mm,
so often when someone says, and people will come to our events, and I'll go, how are you doing? And I'll have women just start crying. I don't even know them. I have no idea
mhm,
what's going on. They just literally just start crying. And there's a woman at my event, our regional event in Texas last few months ago. And she's like, I have 4 kids. I'm a nurse. I have 4 properties. I really am just trying to keep it all together. And
yeah.
I'm sorry, I just lost it, but I just don't have space to even share that with anyone. And I said, I get it. And I think my point in sharing that with women listening is that regardless of where you think you're headed and what's important to you, we don't know those answers if we don't quiet ourselves. And when I say quiet ourselves, I'm not talking about, like, no offense to Miracle Morning, 2 hours worth of meditation in the morning, which, is sometimes not possible for a lot of the women listening. Like, I got to get the kids out, and I some hear these thought leaders like, you should take 2 hours in the morning to do come on now. You're a mom, you're not taking 2 hours. I'm sorry, you're just not. My point in saying that is, what can you do to quiet your mind, quiet your soul, and listen to your intuition? Because we know the answers. You know the answers. You know what you want. I believe we all do, but
Yeah.
we stay so busy, and you know this. You're a coach. I'm sure the women you work with, they busy themselves that they just don't. It's so far for them. So I think quieting your mind, even on a weekly basis, make a date with yourself. 15 minutes a week. Start 5 minutes. I don't care. Quiet your mind. I think
Yeah.
women and will get clear on actually what they want.
Yeah. No, and to speak to your story, I think too, just quieting your mind to also get clear on what you're trying to live up to and whose expectations are that. I mean,
Are they yours or are they someone else's?
right. Are you trying to keep it all together because that's what somebody told you you're supposed to do? Like, no, that's unhuman. I mean, I had a
Yeah.
conversation with a mom last week about the same thing, and she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, why do you think that you have this expectation you have to live up to have it together 24/7 all the time? It's just not possible, and it's
Possible.
completely okay. I could talk to you for so long, but I would love to hear about, how you juggle motherhood and business.
Yeah, I think I'm a work in progress still. I do find what's helpful because I, I think knowing thyself is number one. So before I can answer how I personally juggle, the biggest thing that I've had to learn is a very, very small little word, and it starts with an N and it ends with an O. And, like, no, like, am I saying no enough in my life to other things so I'm a natural people pleaser. I'm a natural, I want to help everyone, right? I said I idolized Mother Teresa, right? So my growth has had to come in boundaries, which
Mhm.
when I learned, a great book. We had a woman speak at our investor con this year. Terry Cole, highly recommend her book on. It's called Boundary Box. Is the book, phenomenal book.
Mhm.
But anyway, she said, you don't have a time management problem. You have a boundary problem. Is
Mhm.
what she said. And so my inner work is, as I've tried to get clear on my own boundaries and saying no, and it's a work in progress. I feel though I can juggle better because
Mhm.
now I'm very clear on my priorities,
Mhm.
and clear on, like, I'm not answering that message after a certain time.
Mhm.
And that's hard. Not hard for, like, the rest of the world, but, like, for my business partner or for my husband or people, like, I want to respond to be Johnny on the spot.
Mhm.
So I've had to learn to let go of that.
Mhm.
And I've learned to, I think the prioritization has been really helpful for me. Like,
Mhm.
what am I to do right now? Like last night, I mean, I have plenty to do. You're an entrepreneur. I like 25 things I could always be doing, to be honest with you. I mean, there's always
Yeah.
something I could be working on. So last night we just got a Clue from the Goodwill. We
Mhm.
buy games. My favorite thing is you buy all the games, old school games, and we're playing. And I looked at my phone. I saw a couple of messages come through, and I'm like, first of all, I'm like, why did I look at my phone? I turned my phone over. I didn't listen to them, and I'm like, no, I'm here with my family. and I'm going to focus on that. And I did. And I listened to it later and I listened to it this morning. But my point is, I think the juggling for me is certainly time blocking and all that good stuff that people say. But it has to be a prioritization, meaning like, what is my priority right now? Right now, I'm talking with you. I'm trying to give as much value to impact the people listening. That's the only thing I'm thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I'm with my kids and I'm trying to support them, I do the same thing. Is it perfect? Does it always look? Am I kind of juggling sometimes? Yeah, sure. Am I like locking my door sometimes when the kids are home and they have friends over and I'm trying to get something done? Yeah, that happens, right? Or I'm escaping and no one can find me. Yeah, all those things happen sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the prioritization and getting really clear for yourself, what am I supposed to be doing right now? Like, what's that one thing I'm supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Brings me back because I can tend to, try to be all things, all people.
Mm-hmm.
And that drains me. I honestly, it's something I still need to develop and work on. I don't think I've mastered it per se, but I'm aware of it. I mean, I didn't even know I should have boundaries a few years ago. Honestly, I was just like, boundaries, that's for really uptight people. You got to be flexible. That's how you become successful, as you're flexible and come on. And now I'm like, oh my God, where have I been? But that's okay. That's my own journey. But prioritization and like focusing, what am I supposed to be doing right now and who am I supposed to be with, brings me grounded and helps me stay on track of the balancing act.
Yeah. No, we're all a work in progress. And if anybody tells you anything different, they're not truthful with themselves or you, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with kids, they're constantly growing and their needs are changing. And so, that we just have to adapt with that.
Yeah.
And, I have a senior in high school and I still, dedicate a lot of time to her. It's just
Yeah.
different than what it looked like
Different.
when she was 5,
Yeah. It gets more complicated as they get older.
Right? Yeah,
I'm finding,
exactly. I wish
you
we could
know?
just go to Target and get a My Little Pony and it was
Yeah,
all
I know.
good.
I'm like, come on, man, they're like a newborn. It's like the easiest time. I'm like, I didn't know that at the time. Now
Yeah.
my 10-year-old, right, is dealing with different things that he didn't deal with 5 years ago. So now I'm like, huh, this is intense. And my husband and I had the conversation today. I'm like, this is hard. But we'll get the answers and we'll take one step at a time and
Right.
give him the support he needs. So
Yeah. It all seems to work out. Well, before we wrap up, tell us about the part of your legacy, your podcast, and the InvestHER community, and where people can find more resources if they're interested in growing a real estate portfolio, and where can they learn more about that?
Yeah, I shared a little bit earlier, part of my legacy and part of my passion is creating, the resources that women need to take control of their finances and get a little more in the driver's seat of their investments. Now more than ever, women are coming into more. They currently control $10 trillion. That's going to 30 trillion in the next 3 to 5 years. Women outlive men 6 to 7 years. Again, I'm saying in a traditional way. So the need to like become more, I don't want to say you don't have to be an expert, but like a little more like taking control of your finances, taking control of your investments is like the time, right? Is now. And so we've created a community where we give the knowledge that women need to build the portfolios that they want or buy that next investment. We give them the skills that they need to, what do they need to do in order to accomplish that? And then the support, right? The community part. And we believe those three pieces together move the needle on women's investment journey, whether they want to buy one property or they want to buy their 10th, 20th and really scale their, we have a lot of women who have been home with the kiddos and being mom full time. And then they're like, kids are out. Now, what do I want to do? And they're coming into this like buying the next short-term rental. It's really cool to see, right? Of where their next phase is. So we've created a community. We've created a space for women to come together. We have an InvestHER Facebook community that's free to women just to post questions, get the support they need. We have our conference once a year. We have our next one in Orlando, June 1st to 3rd, 2025. We have 500 women coming together, and the theme this year is all about growing together. And so these are women who may have not done their first deal or are scaling. We have a mentorship program for women who've done 5 to 10 deals or more, and we're also building out cohorts and coaching for women who are newer to investing. So we're really trying to help women with the path to whether they're new or they're expanding, to give them not just the knowledge, because you can go Google that, but it's about the consistent support is really what we're really committed to doing. But our investor Facebook community is probably the best way to get connected to us, get involved, ask questions. And also we have, last thing is we have local meetups. So we have 45 meetups across the country of women coming together to support each other locally in all different cities and all different states. We have a few in Canada as well. So whether it's online with the Facebook community or offline with our meetups, the goal is to bring women together, give them the knowledge and the skills, and so they know they don't need to do it alone. Because quite honestly, if you run a household, you can run a property like that. I mean, honestly, most women have these transferable skills that they could pretty much do whatever they want to do in this business. They just don't know that yet or don't believe that yet. So that's what we're here to stand on for them.
I love that. You've given us so much permission today to build wealth, to create a legacy, to think about ourselves and our future. And really empower ourselves. So I appreciate that so much. If you had a takeaway or takeaways that you wanted to leave with listeners, what would that be?
There's so many there. I would say don't undersell yourself, because anyone listening to this podcast and any women I've met always leans into underselling themselves. And we need to stop doing that. We need to own who we are, the greatness that we have. And I don't care what someone's resume is or how many properties they own or how much money they have or any of that. It's all kind of noise anyway. It matters what you believe about yourself. And I just see so many women that are just bad at, and they undersell themselves, and they second guess themselves, and they take scraps from deals they're putting together, which I'm like, hold on. And I'm not saying this because I'm dismissed, like I demand everything from everyone. I'm telling you this because I've done it in my own life, and really am very mindful of not dismissing my worth. Still working on it, to be honest, but I really am more conscious of it than I ever have. And I just want women not to undersell themselves in anything, any conversation, any deal, anything. Don't undersell yourself.
Yeah, I love that. That's why this podcast was started. So thank you so much. Where can listeners connect with you and learn more and all the things?
Yeah, absolutely. So the investor community, if you go to Facebook, you just go to InvestHER Community, you'll find us there. I'm very active in the group. My name's on Facebook. It's Elizabeth Rendazzi Faircloth. So if you join the group, it's a free group to join. I would love to know what your question is. Tag me. It's Elizabeth Rendazzi, Rendazzezes, Faircloth, Faircloth. I mean that sincerely. If you have a specific question about investing or money or something you heard today, I would love for you to tag me, and I will answer it. Hands down, I will. So I would give that invitation so you can start getting the support you need. If it comes to investing, that's the place to be. So that's what I would say is the best place to find me.
Awesome. And we'll leave links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Liz, for this just bucket filling conversation. It's been great. Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me, Angela.
Yeah, thank you.